Marine. With over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. And Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Canaan Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Wednesday, the 22nd day of May, 2019. I trust that everyone had an enjoyable evening and that you're all raring to go today. Those of you who are on the roads already, busy roads of the Cayman Islands, we urge you, we implore you to drive carefully, observe the rules of the road, be courteous. Remember that the life you save may be your own. And the roads of the Cayman Islands are always very busy. We know that people are in a hurry to get someplace, a place where no matter how fast they go, it's going to still be at that same spot. So you're not changing much when you're speeding, rushing to go. As a matter of fact, sometimes there's an old saying, more haste, less speed. So again, we urge you, please be extremely careful on the roads. We see the carnage that has taken place in other jurisdictions when it comes to the way people drive, or neighboring Jamaica, bus carrying school children, something like over a dozen people injured, one fatality, simply because the driver was reported to be driving on the opposite lane, crossing a huge line of traffic, then hitting a curb, going over an embankment, and killing one, injuring many others as well. We see the same mentality here in the Cayman Islands, and sometimes we wonder whether or not by building wider roads, smoother roads, better roads, is that an encouragement then for people to speed? Something to think about. Yes, we need the roads. We need good roads so that the vehicles that are being driven on them can last us for some period of time. But at the same time, people are taking advantage of the good roads to speed. So we need more enforcement. I believe that the use of cameras, speed cameras, on the roads would help. And you read the license plate. The owner of the vehicle is the person who should be held responsible at the end of the day. If they're not driving the vehicle, too bad. That means that you will then ensure that those persons who drive your vehicle are driving responsibly, because you know that it will fall on your shoulders at the end of the day. I know that the government is reluctant to some extent, because they do not want to seem to be gaining revenue from these offenses. You're not entrapping anyone. You have set the legal speed limit for people to drive at. And if they decide to go over that speed limit, that's a decision that they're making. You, the government, has set the speed limit. You've said it's 25 miles an hour in this area, 35 miles an hour in this area, 40 miles an hour in this area. And if people exceed that, including myself, including me, then we should be held responsible for it. And to me, that is going to be the only way that we're going to be able to govern and to affect the way people drive on the roads of the Cayman Islands. Hit them where it hurts most, and that's in their pockets. So I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I'm your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your call. This morning, it is the voice of Silver Fox, Mr. Paul Akal, not Paul Akai, as I've been saying several mornings, Paul Akal. You can join us in the conversation by calling on us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where you can leave us a text message or send us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. Before I introduce my guest this morning, we want to give some birthday shout outs to some people. Some may have passed already. I'll start by Miss Melrose Ranking of East End, and greetings are coming from her family, including Lord Graham, the fireworks man. And those are belated happy birthdays to Miss Melrose Rankin. Also, Mr. Timothy Solomon. We also know him as Tim Solomon. He's a renowned seaman involved in the Seafarers Association for many years as well, and a renowned businessman in the Cayman Islands. Also, Mr. Brandon Moxham. And I will give his age because he's young, so nothing to be ashamed of. 22 years old today. And the only way that he would not probably want us to say he's 22 unless he's telling some young lady or something like that, or I'm really 25 or 26. If he's at that age, you normally try to increase your age rather than to decrease it. So I can say that his 22 years old, and birthday greetings are coming from his family, including Miss Phyllis Jensen, also known as Miss Phyllis Moxham. And I should also add that Brandon Moxham, he is studying, doing quite well in his studies. He wants to be a quantity surveyor, and also wants to be a personal trainer. So we wish Brandon all the success in his endeavors to become a quantity surveyor and a personal trainer. Continue with your studies, continue to get good grades, and that lays the platform for you to get good employment, the employment that you want, the career that you want in the Cayman Islands. All we have to do here for you, Brandon, is to make sure that we keep the doors open for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. And if you find that the door isn't open enough for you, take the door and pull it open yourself and walk right in. So, happy birthday greetings. Some are belated. Miss Melrose Rankin, coming from her family in East End, including Lord Graham, Mr. Tim Solomon, also, and as I mentioned before, Mr. Brandon Moxham. Happy birthday to all. And with that, I will introduce my guest this morning, none other than MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who represents Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly. Mr. Bryan, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
Good morning, OC, and good morning to your listening and viewing audience across the world, particularly to the Georgetown Central voters and Cayman Brac and all of Grand Cayman and Little Cayman. It's a pleasure to be back on the show today, and I hope that we have a fruitful and beneficial conversation for us as well as the listening and viewing audience. I have a few things I want to speak about today, but before I get into those, I want to send some condolences because it's been a pretty sad couple of weeks, particularly for Georgetown as well as for Georgetown Central itself. And just as Caymanians, we've unfortunately lost some stalwarts in our community, some mothers, some fathers, some senior members that are iconic in our community. And it makes me think about one of the topics I'm going to be talking about today, but I'll get into that a little later on. First, I want to talk about Miss Viola Miles, better known as YY. She passed a few days ago, and I want to give my condolences to the whole family, extended family, and friends. She was truly a special, special lady. I remember as a child growing up in Rock Hole and Markfield Lane and Shedden Road, where me and boys my age, Trini, Morgan, and everyone that we used to play basketball after Georgetown Primary School, and Miss YY's yard was the yard to be at. She was always the one to keep us in control and make sure that we're not astray, and always willing to feed us. She was the community mother, a woman with such an amazing smile and so jovial and jokey, but yet serious and firm. She definitely will be missed, and I know that there's so many people who love her. I posted a picture on Facebook just saying that my heart was hurting with her loss. A lot of people thought she was a family member of mine and gave me condolences directly, but I refuse to even correct them, because it would be me saying that she's not family to me. Though she wasn't, I loved her like a community mother, so I passed on those condolences to the family, but she will surely be missed. Now the family is gathering by the home on a nightly basis now, trying to figure out all the funeral arrangements. Also, we also lost Miss Rosalie Seymour, another stalwart and super mother in the Central and Martin Drive area, who I almost think that every one of the Seymours are family directly to her or indirectly. She passed about 2 weeks ago now. The funeral is coming up this Saturday, and I'm certain that the funeral arrangements have been put out there in the papers and probably will be on Radio Cayman. Another lovely, amazing person that we lost. And lastly, Mr. James, better known as Mr. Jim Wood, passed away 2 days ago. Another iconic name and character.
Businessman.
Going
way back from his furniture store days.
Funny enough, I had to do some homework because I'm doing some tributes on his behalf. But another character that I go, these are people who made Cayman or Georgetown what it was, and characters that you always know. Even as a kid, you just need to know who that man is, you know. And sadly, he's gone. So my condolences to his family, particularly Julian, who him and I went to school together. So I know the family is dealing with this difficult loss, but have been prepared and preparing properly for his bye ceremony. So that being said, I want to send the blessings to all the family.
Okay. I have a few more birthday greetings that, unfortunately, I didn't look at my personal phone and the WhatsApp messages there, but I also want to wish Miss Talisha Galbraith a happy birthday today, as she turns 22 years old as well. Talisha has made many accomplishments so far as her education is concerned, and she continues to work extremely, extremely hard. And we know that her mother, Lisa Galbraith, is quite proud of her as well. Also, well-known person in the community and a good friend of mine also, and the brother of Miss Lucille Seymour, Mr. Coolidge Seymour, celebrating a birthday today as well. Actually, his was on the 17th of May. 80 years old for Coolidge, and I'm told still going strong as well. So Coolidge, happy birthday to you. Again, another well-known person in your community. Yes. And here's the big one. Here is the big one, folks. Miss Huldah Ebanks of West Bay. Her family wants to wish her a happy birthday today, and she turns, folks, listen carefully, 103 years old today. 102, wow. Sorry, 102. 102. I added one more year, and I hope that she's able to reach that 103. 102 years old today for Miss Huldah Ebanks. And again, we wish you a happy birthday and Godspeed. Continue to be with us. So with that, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan will continue. So please stay tuned. Don't change that dial.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Over a century ago, the unique industry of barking earned some residents double the daily wages. Barking was no easy task and involved trekking through marshy grounds along the North Sound and stripping the bark from the red mangroves along the coastline. The mangrove trees would die after being debarked, and the bark was exported for use in dyes and tanning leather after being weighed and dried. The laborers were commonly referred to as barking fools for enduring the difficult task, along with battling droves of mosquitoes and doing so without the use of shoes and gloves. Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner, think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Cause they on sale this month. Dial teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Rotaract Blue, in support of the Cayman Special Needs Community, present the 11th Annual Open Arms Gala, The Great Gatsby. Saturday, May 25th at Ristorante Papagayo. Cocktails begin at 6 p.m. 3-course dinner, award ceremony, silent auction at 7 p.m. Attire is Gatsby chic. Your ticket is only $100 per person. Your table only $1,500. Tickets available online at eventpro.ky or email president.rotaractblue@gmail.com. The Open Arms program promotes care, understanding, and non-discrimination for disabled persons. The Great Gatsby by Rotaract Blue. Inspiration to the next generation.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Before I turn the mic back over to him, I'm treating my sister like the shoemaker's wife. They say the shoemaker's wife always is the one with the worst shoes or going barefoot. My sister, Arlene Campbell, celebrated a birthday on the 18th of May as well, so I want to wish her publicly a belated happy birthday to her as well. So I'd want to do that. And just one more thing. One of our listeners has written in and said, "Good morning, OC. I wholeheartedly agree with you regarding the government investing in cameras for speeding and other traffic offenses. In my opinion, these cameras should have been installed years ago. I have other concerns I'd like to voice, but I will do that at another time." And we look forward to you expressing your other concerns as well. We will certainly air them and we will discuss them and try to get answers for your concerns also. Mr. Bryan, back to you, sir.
Good morning again. Thank you. I just want to say, yes, it was. It's good to hear about all of those birthday celebrations. So on my behalf, I wanted to say happy birthday to each and every one of those that you mentioned. Today, I want to speak about 4 topics. I'm not sure if we're going to get through all of them because I like the participation of the callers, focusing on those topics so we can have some good dialogue. But I'll just suggest what they are, and eventually we will get to the discussion of those topics throughout this show.
Okay.
First one, the hurricane season and flooding in relations to the development of roads in the Cayman Islands and the effect of it. That combined with hurricane season preparedness. Secondly, the Cayman Islands is changing. There's no doubt about that. But what is it changing to, and what are our plans? And the reason why I want to talk about that today, because as I see so many of our iconic seniors who made Cayman what we are passing by the week, we are slowly losing a piece of who we are as the Cayman Islands. And we're changing into something else. But the question is, what are we changing to? Are we in control of what we want to become? I don't know if we have a plan for that, and I want to discuss that a little bit.
Okay.
The third one is proper funding to give Caymanians opportunities to take advantage of this booming economy. We hear a lot about the economy is doing so well, and it's a great opportunity for Caymanians to take advantage of it. But what I'm finding is the people who are taking advantage of the economy right now is still the same people who have always taken advantage of the economy, those who have the money to do so. And it's very, very important for a government to create a policy where it can help young entrepreneurs with proper funding and investment. There's a lot of young Caymanians out there who have great ideas, but if you never have the assets, the money in the bank, or land to start and try something new when things are good, there will always be somebody else who's taking advantage of that. And that's what I'm finding, is that there's a lot of money going around, a lot of opportunity, but it's somebody else coming with an investment or have the money coming here and then taking advantage of it, because genuinely our average Caymanian don't have $100,000 just sitting around waiting to take advantage of a new business opportunity, or even say $50,000. And it's really difficult to start a small business from that less than $50,000. And I keep on hearing the sad stories of Caymanians who say they would like to try it, but the banks never give them a chance. If we definitely want to empower Caymanians, you have to make sure that they're the winners of the financial gains of your booming economy, and the government has to do a better opportunity of that. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. Also, the last thing is the CPR group, as you know, has recently announced that they're so close to the numbers to trigger the referendum. I want to also find out from you, the people, do you think it's important that if, in fact, the referendum is triggered and the question has to go to the people in respect to the docking facility or a new docking facility for cargo and cruise, should we then also ask the people at that same time, same opportunity, spending the same amount of money, other questions that are relevant today, like, say, for instance, the skyscraper, gambling, the same-sex marriage or civil unions matter. There's a number of things that we could take that opportunity to ask the people. I want to know the people's thoughts. So those are the 4 topics that I want to talk about today. And also hear from you, the listening audience, as I like the participation because it gives me an insight as to what the people feel. I think we got about 6 minutes before we go to break, so maybe
about 4 minutes. 1 minute before 8, we'll
go to the break.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that being said, obviously we know that the 1st of June, the hurricane season starts, and it's a very important time for us all to start preparing for the hurricane. That means getting your supplies, your safety, your medical, your food supplies, and making sure your house is strapped up, and knowing what your family plan is, whether you're going to a shelter, whether you're staying at home, and if you're staying at home, are you battening up? And what are you doing in that respect? Are you traveling? What are your important documents? It's that time as a family or even as a unit individual staying at home by yourself. What is your plan? The most times difficult things happen when people are not prepared. So just take a little time this weekend or one evening if you can. Bring your family together. Just talk about it for half an hour. You'd be surprised how much information you can cover in that short period of time as to what the plan would be. Where's your nearest shelter? Are you planning to go to a shelter or not? And find out what your neighbor is doing as well, because sometimes you may be prepared, but your neighbor is not. Mm-hmm. The hurricane season is obviously tied to the flooding woes that we have here in the Cayman Islands on a yearly basis, because that's when most of the rain comes to the island. And it's every year it's the same thing, where certain communities are flooded, and there's not much we can do about it. And by all means, I don't expect the government to solve all the flooding problems, but I don't expect them to add to it either. And why I bring up the flooding is because I see that we have not changed or have not discussed one of the major concerns as to the way we build roads in the Cayman Islands. It is important that the NRA builds roads that don't flood, because the freedom of travel throughout our community is a very important and emergency necessary element. So they do build the roads quite high, because during Hurricane Ivan, we remember most of the roads were underwater and you couldn't get from point A to point B in emergency situations. But what has resulted since that is that more of the roads are built higher, and which is also now causing other people's properties to become even more flooded than they already have been. We know that the Cayman Islands is a very flat jurisdiction. We don't have a lot of high points, and the ones that are high, most people are seeking those lands, and those lands are very expensive. But we need to talk about that, and we'll talk more about it when we get back from the break in discussing to the flooding problems in the Cayman Islands and the other topics.
Folks, please stay tuned. We're going to our Time check for 8 o'clock news. When we return, the conversation with Mr. Kenneth Bryan will continue. And as you heard earlier, several topics he wants to discuss, including the hurricane season, the potential for flooding, changes taking place in the Cayman Islands. What are we going to do about those? The proper funding to assist Caymanians in being able to share in a booming economy. As well as the people for referendum on the port and whether or not there should be other questions posed or issues placed on that referendum ballot as well. So please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Radio Cayman time check is now 7:59. This time check is brought to you by our friends at Price Right. Live better for less.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Priced Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Your community, news and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. The Department of Agriculture has had to temporarily close its animal rescue shelter and suspend normal operations due to a parvovirus quarantine in place for dozens of dogs seized from a Prospect home. DOA says managing the health needs of the animals has demanded the full resources and time of the team. This means the collection of strays cannot resume until the quarantine on the shelter has been lifted and there is space available. It also means DOA has had to stop trapping feral chickens, and they are exploring alternatives for assisting the public with the control of wild chickens and will provide an update soon. Hurley's Supermarket says it will no longer distribute single-use plastic shopping bags at its checkout counters. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
Instead of the plastic bags you're used to seeing at the checkout, Hurley's has replaced them with paper handle bags and large reusable Earthwise shopping bags. Hurley's director Shanna Marin says they were distributing about 15,000 single-use bags per week, but made the change after listening to customers' growing environmental concerns. The company says single-use plastic bags take many years to biodegrade, but the paper bags they're using will break down in as little as a month. The negative impact of plastics on marine life has been well documented. Ms. Marin says an estimated 5 or 6 million single-use plastic bags are distributed annually in the Cayman Islands. And if Hurley's alone can cut that number back by 800,000 bags a year, they're pleased to take that first step in protecting the country's greatest natural resource. In addition to discontinuing single-use plastic bags, Hurley's has also replaced plastic straws, styrofoam deli containers, and plastic salad containers with recyclable, environmentally friendly alternatives. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
Hurley's eco-friendly paper handle bags will be sold at the register for 10 cents each. Earthwise eco-friendly bags are available for $1.59. And the University College of the Cayman Islands' STEM camp is back. Antoinette Gale is the camp director and senior lecturer in the Department of Math and Science.
This would be our third year running the camp, and I have to say it's just gotten better and better.
On Radio Cayman's Business Buzz, Ms. Gale explains the aim of the camp is to expose science, engineering, technology, and math to kids, but there's also an art component. She says when it comes to opening up the possibilities, it's important to start young.
So these students would be from years 7 to 9 in high school, around about 11 to 13. We've had them a little bit younger before, and they did quite well. But from years 7 to 9 in high school, we kind of want to engage them before they think, hey, this is not something that I can manage. Right. We want to get them to realize that, hey, this is fun.
The registration deadline for the UCCI STEM camp is Friday, July 26th. You can get more information by emailing events@ucci.edu.ky. Now with the check of international news, here's the BBC who will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith.
Indonesia's newly re-elected president Joko Widodo has promised firm action against rioters after protests on Tuesday descended into deadly violence. Supporters of the defeated opposition candidate, Prabowo Subianto, have again gathered outside the election agency headquarters in Jakarta. They've complained of fraud in last month's poll. Allies of the Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte have triumphed in midterm elections, giving him more power to implement his controversial agenda. With control of the Senate, Mr. Duterte could now push on with reinstating the death penalty and reducing the age of criminal responsibility. Police forces across Europe have broken up an international crime gang thought to have made profits of more than $700 million through drug and cigarette smuggling. Europol said cash, diamonds and gold bars have been seized. China's three biggest airlines are seeking compensation from Boeing for delays and losses caused by the grounding of its 737 MAX plane after fatal crashes. State media said Air China, China Southern and China Eastern had filed claims with the U.S. aerospace firm. South Africa's Deputy President David Mabuza has asked to defer being sworn in as a Member of Parliament following an internal report by the governing ANC's Integrity Commission. No details were given, but Mr Mabuza has previously denied siphoning off state funds. BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
How would you like to drive off in a brand new 2019 all-white Mercedes-Benz CLA 250? On Saturday, June 1st at Mango Tree, you could be that lucky person. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman presents its annual charity fundraising event, Benzorama 2019. That's right, one lucky winner will be announced at the Mango Tree on Saturday, June 1st, and that lucky winner could be you.
If you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance.
Tickets are $25 each, or 5 tickets for only $100. Proceeds from the funds raised go towards various Lions community projects. Tickets can be purchased online at eventpro.ky, or stop by one of our ticket outlets, including Radio Cayman Studios, Funky Tangs, South Coast Bar, Reflections Food for Less, and West Bay Road SO, or can be purchased from any of our active Lions community members. Benzorama 2019. We are all winners once you support the Lions and our community.
While the primary source of alcohol for underage drinkers is people they know, research shows that 7 to 9% of those who report alcohol use in the Cayman Islands purchase alcohol directly from retailers. Tips Off-Premise helps retailers focus on verifying the legal drinking age when selling alcohol. Since the program was introduced here in the Cayman Islands back in 2005, we have trained over 400 persons and partnered with over 10 retailers. Contact us on 949-9000 to have your staff trained today. This message is brought to you by Radio Cayman and the National Drug Council.
Good morning, Cayman. Let's take a look at your latest weather. Present temperature 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Relative humidity 78%. Winds are out of the east at 7 knots. Barometric pressure now at 29.91 and holding. Synopsis: moderate winds and slight to moderate seas will continue across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours in association with a ridge of high pressure over the northwest Caribbean. Forecast for today: partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the upper 80s. Winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Later on this evening, partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the upper 70s. Winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. We're in a low tide. High tide is coming up at 11:45 this morning. It's going to be low at 5:59 this evening. For tomorrow, high tide is at 1:16 a.m., low at 8:02 a.m., high at 12:50 p.m., and low at 7:02 p.m. Sunset this evening is at 6:54. Sunrise for tomorrow at 5:49. And the outlook is for an increase in cloudiness and chances of showers from Thursday morning as an upper-level trough moves over the northwest Caribbean. That's your latest weather right here on Radio Cayman.
This week at Kirk Home Center, get your green thumb going with 8-inch square planter pots starting at $9.49, and keep plants blooming with a half-gallon watering can for $4.69, and grass growing with an 8-pattern sprinkler for $9.99. Cook rice perfect every time with a 16-cup rice cooker from Black & Decker for $34.99, and save on 12-volt cordless drills from Bosch for $259.99.
Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal store for you.
It may be our anniversary at Tony's Toys Automotive Center, but you will be the one celebrating when you take advantage of our fantastic tire special. For a limited time only, buy 1 tire, get 5% off. 2 tires, 10% off. 3 tires, 15% off. 4 tires, get 20% off. Choose from over 2,000 tires in stock and a variety of brands for any make or model vehicle. Drive in today and save on brand new tires at Tony's Toys. Call 623-TIRE. That's 623-8473. Or visit tonystoys.net.
That is the true position at Tony's Toys.
8:10 is our time. Taking a look at traffic conditions just off of West Bay Road. From looking down from the Ritz-Carlton, traffic is moving along quite good into Georgetown. Traffic flowing in both directions. Streets in Georgetown are very much busy, but not too much traffic or congestion. Looking at Shannon Road, Godfrey Nixon Way, Eastern Avenue, Edward Street looking quite clear at the moment. Not too much traffic buildup. Of course, still got a lot of traffic coming out of the eastern districts along the Linford-Pearson Highway. We have some traffic backed up to the roundabout just outside King Sports Center. Slowly crawling traffic coming off of Shamrock Road. And further east, that traffic will continue for a little while, maybe just about 30 minutes or more. Crew Road, a similar position as well, getting onto Huldah Avenue, just past the roundabout onto North Sound Road, onto Elgin Avenue. Traffic will disperse evenly, and you will get to work on time, maybe a little bit late. Buckle up and stay safe. That's your latest traffic reports.
Come along with me so that you will see the best company for your road safety. You'll get the theory, you'll get the road from the best driving school that you can afford.
Hi, I'm Berman Scott from the Real Thing Driving School. You can find us on Facebook. Call me on 925-5094 or call 922-6223.
You'll get the real thing. Yes, it's the real thing. You'll get the real thing. The Real Thing Driving School. Consultation, orientation. Come get your lesson. The Real Thing Driving School.
It's time for Tool Fest 2019, May 24th and 25th at A.L. Thompson's. Pick up their flyer loaded with the best savings of the season. There are 8 pages filled with deals, and they're just the tip of the Tool Fest iceberg. Save 15% in the entire tool department. Enjoy in-store demos and gifts. Meet with the experts from Milwaukee, Stanley, Makita, and others. The savings don't stop there. Trex Stacks, Shop Vacs, and Valspar Paint are all 15% off. Tool Fest on May 24th and 25th, only at A.L. Thompson's.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan, and as you know, he represents the constituency of Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly. We have one caller, so we're going straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, Ossie. Good morning, Kenneth. How are you today?
Good morning to you, sir. Fine.
Good
Thanks.
morning. Good morning.
Yeah, man. I was just thinking, I heard you mention something about cameras on the road, but I mean, I thought we had 300-odd cameras that were supposed to be catching traffic and all that kind of thing on the road. I don't know what happened to them. But anyway, what I
Caller, something's wrong with your connection. We're losing you, or we lost you.
Can you hear me better now?
Now, much better, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I said that the thing that I'm going to talk about this, I want to mention this one was the amount of the sargassum weed that is coming shore in the island.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I remember growing up, I grew up with all my family were, they, like most Caymanians, were turtle fishermen, and they went out, and my grandfather was a sea captain. And so I knew a lot about what turtle ate and all that kind of thing. And sargassum meat is one of your favorite foods. And I'm thinking, why can't we harvest some of that in some way and make it even not more than a treat to the turtle down there? But it's, the turtle, the meat is one of the healthiest meats in the world. It's got every, it's just beautiful. And I thought maybe if they could harvest some of that and have a place where they could process it or something, so that the turtles could, we might not have enough to feed them daily, but a little treat once in a while, they would appreciate it. So I don't know why government doesn't look at this and take advantage of all this free seaweed, which is food for the turtle.
Mm-hmm. Well, caller, if I can interrupt there, and I would say that I believe there was a project that took place over the weekend, probably on Sunday, actually. So that would be the beginning of the week. In the South Sound area, I know that either DOE or Environmental Health, or maybe a combination of both of them, were involved in trucking some of that sargassum from the beach there, and also offering it to people who wanted it. Now, there's one of our listeners who is quite involved in this, and I'm sure if he's listening, I would certainly invite him to call in to talk about the sargassum and the benefits of that, especially in agriculture as well. So I don't know if that what was done on Sunday is going to be done island-wide, but certainly something was done in that area, caller. Go right ahead.
Yeah, well, that's a start, Shane, and that's we got to take advantage of opportunities like this too, because it's free and it's so good, to use for fertilizer and stuff like that, And
Mm-hmm.
if you you remember up at what do you call it? Up there where the Rum Point and them areas up there, where that was all dredged material, that place was built out on the wings out there, around the Yacht Club and all them places. And you go there today and you see, and it's all because of the nutrients that was in that stuff that were dredged up. That plants grow there, everything is green in that area. Mm-hmm. You don't see no topsoil, it's all sand. So it just goes to show that the nutrients in that seaweed and stuff like that is very good for fertilizer.
Definitely. Yeah. Caller, I want to thank you very much for that. We have another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C., Mr. Brian.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Just a few comments. First of all, understand that seaweed is good for cows. Love to eat it too.
Okay.
And one thing I've been concerned about is they're talking about building these big 10 or 15-story buildings. Years ago, they put some dye in some well at East End, and they showed up in West Bay. And I'm wondering if there's a lot of caverns under far beneath the island here.
Mm-hmm.
And they did dig down to the bedrock and break through one of those caverns, especially around the 7 Mile Beach area. They could pull out a bit of sand off the 7 Mile Beach. Just under consideration, should check it out and see what's the extent of these cavern caves on the island, many building these big buildings down to the bedrock.
Okay. Something to
Have
consider.
a good day, gentlemen. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much, caller, for that. Mr. Brian, what I'm going to ask you to do, very quickly repeat the 4 topics that you want to discuss, and then the opportunity that we're going to extend to our audience for them to not necessarily take them in a chronological order that you have placed them. But if someone is listening and not able to listen to the whole show, but wants to contribute or wants to ask a question in relation to any of these topics, they can do so at any point in time rather than waiting until you raise the issue.
Fair enough. The concerns that I wanted to speak about today was the hurricane season and flooding and its connectivity. I spoke a little bit about that before we went to the news break, and I will just say a few more things on that shortly. The next one is the concerns of Cayman changing and what will Cayman be in the next 30 years. The third one is funding for Caymanians to take advantage of the booming economy by starting businesses. And the fourth one is if there is an imminent referendum to be initiated, do we think it's important that we should add more questions to that referendum to address some of the concerns that or get the feedback from the people of this country in respect to some other topics. We've heard from the CPR group recently that they're almost there, just less than a couple of hundred. I think they're like 150 away just last week. They're probably at the number now, which means that the referendum will be triggered. And we should take that opportunity to ask some other questions. And I want to know from the public what some of those questions should be by way of matter of priority. I think we can get away with at least 4 questions, in my opinion. There's 3 other topics that I think are very important that should be on there, but I just would like to get some more feedback. Just to answer some of the concerns in respect to the last 2 callers, the gentleman, the latter caller suggested that we should be concerned about caves, so to speak, or pockets of emptiness in the land when we're building these high-story buildings. I agree with him wholeheartedly, but I would assume that there is some specialist in the planning department that have taken these into consideration and tests that are done before they build these high-story buildings up to 10 stories is the law right now. Before they give planning approval. So one would assume that. I would hate to think that that's not the case before they start to build, but you're right. What we should do is actually have some way of identifying if there are pockets across the island, where are they, because they could pose a serious threat. But I'm not sure if there's technology out there that can identify those things under the ground, or whether we actually truly have some. I've heard many stories as a child growing up about pockets, particularly in Georgetown Central, and that's one of the main concerns I have about the port. There is caves under the earth and pockets. I have never been able to confirm them, but I trust my seniors in respect to the stories that they've told us. People have given witnesses themselves saying that they have seen them or they've dived them, and potentially has been filled over the years. So it would be good to actually have some evidence to that so we can plan and take proper action with information. In respect to the first caller about the seaweed concerns, interestingly enough, as he was speaking, I thought it'd be important that I send a email to the Minister, the Honourable Dwayne Seymour, to ask him to give us an update as to what is transpiring with the seaweed, because a lot of people know that there's loads of it. Is there a government-initiated plan? Are they hiring new people? Is this an opportunity to give some people some work, Caymanian some work, to go out there and get rid of all this stuff, because it's a lot and it's going to probably take about at least a month to get rid of it. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I'm going to send him an email right now while we're on the show to see if I can get an update.
Okay, 2 more callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, OC. Good morning, Ken. Elvis McKeever here in the Bronx.
Good morning, Mr. McKeever. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. Now, listen, man, I hear talk about the referendum go through that you want to ask different questions.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to suggest a question. Who is in favor of medicinal marijuana and recreational marijuana in the Cayman Islands? Because I don't know if you in Georgetown Central go in again, the smokers that vote for you. But a lot of ganja smokers in Cayman Rock voting, and whoever run the next election, they got to face that with us. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, caller, for that.
I guess I'll answer that question after the next caller.
Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, OC, and good morning to MLA Cass Bryant.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Going? Hope you guys enjoyed your long weekend.
Yes, I did.
Certainly did. Thanks.
All right. I'll just jump straight into it. Emily, Brian, just want to say, first of all, thank you for your contributions and efforts to the cruise port referendum initiative. I'm happy to say that we have crossed the threshold. We've gone through the internal verification process, and we are there. We still have a significant number of other signatures to verify internally, and we now are in the process of setting up meetings with the election supervisor. I was just about to say Mr. O.C. He's a former election supervisor. So we're setting up meetings with that office and also with the governor, just so that we can basically understand before we submit to the cabinet, to the premier, to the governor's office, exactly what something like this entails technically. But just wanted to acknowledge and thank you what you've done, the canvassing of your constituents, the way that you are able to help us understand, what roads were yours versus what roads were Georgetown North. Greatly appreciated. I think for a freshman politician, you truly are the definition of a grassroots politician and somebody that really understands your constituents. So I just want to acknowledge that. And I think you're doing such a good job. I heard over the weekend that your detractors and opponents are contemplating bringing back the former king of Georgetown to face you in 2021. So you must be doing something right if you can take a recently retired titan of Cayman politics and bring them back into the ring. So look out for that. But I say all that to say this. We've reached a stage in the country where you're asking, in my mind, the right questions. The people's initiated referendum will happen. It is afforded to us and guaranteed under Section 70 of the Constitution. We have satisfied the threshold. The elections office will verify that for us in due course. So we're definitely going to have a people's initiated referendum. But I think you're absolutely right. This would be an opportune time for the government to take the pulse of the people on a myriad of different issues. I would include the cruise berthing project question on that referendum, but also something as simple as legalizing gambling in the Cayman Islands. And I say this for a few reasons, but when you consider how many Caymanians, myself included, go away, spend a good bit of change on the lotto, hoping against hope that we might win, the 300 million Powerball, so on and so forth. Obviously, the appetite for a game of chance and gambling exists. So this would be an opportunity for the government to ask that question. The hot button topic of legalizing same-sex marriage or civil unions. Again, this is a prime opportunity where that question could be added to the referendum page so that the government gets to see and hear and feel the will of the people. That's how democracy is supposed to work. And I can't imagine that anybody is afraid to hear from their people and what the country thinks on key issues. So I just want to acknowledge and applaud you for having the courage and the vision to ask those questions publicly, because a lot of politicians right now are shying away from hot button topics. They don't contribute anything, but they're quick to collect the big money at the end of the month, even though they ran against some of these same policies that they are now supporting. But again, that's why they call it politics. So, gents, thanks a lot for your time.
Before you go, Mr. Moxon, just one observation and a thought. Now,
yes,
the cruise berthing issue would be a people's initiated referendum. But
yes,
you're not suggesting then that these other, or you're suggesting that any other question on the referendum would be something initiated by the government as opposed to a people's initiated referendum, because how they're treated in terms of whether or not they have crossed the threshold would be different.
Yes.
Mr. O.C., you are the technical expert in that area, so I would be guided by you on that. All I know, our priority was to get to 25% of registered voters.
Right.
We reached that, so just a suggestion, because it's a national discussion, I think if they don't incorporate people like yourself yourself and Mr. Howell and all the other people that really understand the elections law and how referendums work. I just think it's an opportunity, however the mechanism takes place, for the government to take the pulse of the people because, one, the people are obviously united and galvanized where they want their voices to be heard. No longer are we going to wait 4 years for government to tell us what they're doing. People now understand off the back of our grassroots initiative that you have the power if you can galvanize yourself, be united, and have a issue of national importance. And I think from a revenue standpoint, if the government don't consider legalizing or looking into the question, how are you going to pay for all these grandiose plans and visions for the future if you don't have significant revenue to finance those things? Because Check and Dart and everybody else not going to bail us out.
And to do that without direct taxation,
Exactly. There's no such thing as a free lunch, so you got to pay for it somehow. You know?
Okay.
All right, gents.
Thank you very much, caller, for that.
But just before you go, Johan, just to let you know that somebody needs to get in contact with me. I have another sheet of more names. I've been working on my own in my constituency, so I have some more names for you as well. So somebody else can call. I'll call somebody after the show to give them some more names who have signed for the petition.
One more caller. Do we want to take the caller now, Paul? Or, we'll take the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, people. My uncle called. I was calling a while ago. My uncle Brock, this fellow now, listen, this referendum thing, right? She come like, listen, only 11 months, everyone like case now, right? I have the own democracy, right? We have the moratorium is, or parlays, the preamble of it. But listen, you see the marijuana thing? We got to show you from that. Yeah, I tell you. Because every globally making good sacrifice money. Yeah, adequate capitals. Yeah, everybody have their own lifestyle now. All right? But listen, Mr. OC, you see the port thing? I see what the port now. That's what Mr. Al did now. You see the port thing? Get with it now. It's cheaper now. The buys remorse. Yeah, I tell you.
Okay, got you.
Because Donald Trump now, he want to land the trade now. And that's what we're about now. And he got tired of stuff where, you know, he forgot Cuba, you know. But we got to take long-term planning. Yes, that was okay.
Okay.
And next thing we cut me off, the independence there. We got interest on that differently, right? And finally, I say no. The opposition leader, they got the regime, you know. Now the immature there, we live in Grand Pavilion, hello, with the horse street, hello. Gentlemen, good day. Can you put time?
Thanks, bro.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for that. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan and his response to the callers will continue. So please stay tuned.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
Sounds of Expressions.
A Toastmasters event on May 29th at 6 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall.
An evening of intimate poetry and live music displayed by our Toastmasters and local musicians.
Admission only $10. All proceeds go towards our youth leadership program.
Come on down and support our youth as it promises to be a night of captivating entertainment. Sounds of Expressions. Tickets available at Sings Rotary Shop, a Toastmasters fundraising event proudly sponsored by Radio Cayman,
Star 92.7, Audio Wave,
The Performance Lab,
Fun Fact, Acorn Publishing, and Sings Roti Shop.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Mr. Bryan.
Thank you, OC. Mr. Connor. Put some
No,
manners.
OC's fine.
No. My mother says that you have respect for your seniors, so I apologize for that. That being said, we had a few of the callers. I want to say thank you to Mr. Moxham. It was a pleasure to be working with the CPR group in respect to assisting them with the referendum. We can see that the last two callers have been focusing on my last topic of discussion today, which is whether or not we should add more questions to a referendum that ultimately would be triggered by a people's initiated referendum. And we just heard by a representative of the CPR group, Mr. Johan Moxham, that they have now officially, according to them, got those numbers, and I'm going to add a few more numbers to that after the show. So some of the things that I've heard so far, Mr. McKeever and Kim and Brack, should we decriminalize marijuana consumption? At least I think that's exactly how he said, because we have to be concerned about what the exact question is, because there's legalization and decriminalization is two different things, which is one that I think that there's been enough talk for enough time for us to have a say in it. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think there is substantial amount of medicinal benefits to the consumption. I know of a new Caymanian who's been Caymanian now for close to about 30 years, and he's talking about his anxiety problems, and he said that, boy, if it wasn't for the consumption of marijuana, that his life, he wouldn't have a life, he wouldn't come out of his house and the like, and he has a prescription for it. Also, we know that the cruise birthing facility will be won based on the People's Initiated referendum under the constitutional guidelines of what that means. The other question that came up in the calls is the legalizing of gambling / lotto. I added the lotto part because some people over the years I've heard are okay with the lotto, but not necessarily with gambling in its totality. And obviously, government can regulate that however they see fit, if in fact they would agree with that, or the people would agree with that. Legalizing same-sex unions. I think that one would be a tricky one on the basis of you almost have to ask two questions. First is getting past the mark of protecting or the question about same-sex marriages. I think that's a foregone conclusion that most people in the country, the majority are not for same-sex marriages. But I don't think there's ever been a question to the people as to whether they would be for same-sex unions, which has a little difference to it. Now,
but you would also want to wait until the whole court scenario plays out.
I don't necessarily agree with that, Mr. Connor, because I think that what we should do is start preparing ourselves. It makes little sense to wait for the outcome of that, and we don't know which way it's going to go if we already know. Let's say, for instance, they come back and say, same-sex marriages is not a legal right. We still have to rectify the rights problem. And I think it would be proactive of us to ask the people to say, okay, would they be okay with same-sex unions to make sure that we qualify those rights that are within the Constitution and already have an answer to move quickly so we don't find ourselves in a lawsuit position as a government. So that's why I think that we should address that. Another topical one, and I'll add this myself, it hasn't been said by any caller yet, but I've heard on other forums, other radio shows, as well as on social media, the concern about the skyscraper proposal that we've heard from the dark group as well as from the Premier himself saying that we should consider it. It is a game changer to the way of life for the Cayman Islands. I'm not opposed to it, but I think I'm guided by my people's decisions. And I think it's something that is so drastically changed the narrative of who we are as the Cayman Islands. I think we should have the people's input on that. I'm obviously guided by what the public's reaction would be. And the last one by the caller was independence. And I'm assuming that we're talking about should we be prepared for it, whether that's a question. All legitimate questions that the public, we've heard many people talk about over the years and almost over the decades. And they actually fit all within the timeline of what I've been thinking. I'm interested to hear from anybody else if there's any other questions. But OC, I think I should take this opportunity to use your expertise here. Not being as familiar with the referendum process as you would be. We know that the People's Initiated Referendum has a different threshold. But the government-initiated referendum, what would be the process if the public asks the government to say, can you add 3 more questions to this process of a referendum? And what would government have to do to add 3 more, 4 more, whatever amount of questions to it? What would happen?
I think the government would, if they accept those recommendations by people to say, we would want to be able to express ourselves or to have questions answered, know what the public's view is on other topics for the government. I think it would be an excellent opportunity. Number one, let's discuss the pros and cons of it. Some of the pros of putting more having more questions on the ballot paper is that you don't end up having to do one referendum after the other, which would be extremely costly.
Yes.
One of the cons to that, though, would be, do you then confuse people? And for the people, those with who are supporting the people-initiated referendum, will other questions on a referendum, on a ballot paper, right, detract from the port issue, and people focus more on other topics, other questions, and not on the port one, and as a result of that, not being able to meet that threshold that you need for the referendum to be successful. For those who are pro-port, then they may say, yes, let's put it on there because it means more. The other thing is that you're likely to get, there's a good possibility that you will get a higher turnout if there are more questions on the ballot. Now, getting a higher turnout and getting those persons to focus on the main one that you want to focus on, if it's the port, it's a question. So it's going to be a whole lot of footwork that has to be placed in there. And you don't want to run the risk of confusing the voter by having too many questions on there.
Fair enough. A follow-up question then. Would it be fair to say that obviously the People's Initiated Referendum would be the first one to be asked? So everything else comes afterwards, because there is a obligation by the People's Initiated Referendum by way of the government will have to act on the results of those, as opposed to a government-initiated referendum where it's more like advisory.
Yeah.
So one would assume, and you can answer this for me as well, do we have to go in separate booths? So if there's
it should be one ballot paper with all of those issues on there. It should be one ballot paper.
Okay,
it could be one ballot paper with all of the issues.
Perfect.
Yes.
Well, in that case, I would like to think that I'm confident that my people in the country can be capable of not being confused. Now, there may be a small percentage, but you do a proper education campaign.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Explain to the people how it would work, and
And at the tabulation, you would, the same way that you do for candidates A, B, C, and D, you would do the tabulation in terms of the questions on there. So so for the People's Initiated Referendum, where there's a particular threshold that has to be reached, you would do your calculations based on the number of persons who voted
in that question. Who answered that question?
Yes, in that one.
I think it should be. I think I'm confident in the elections office, and I'm also confident in my people. There's a process that we can understand, and obviously you may have some people who may not get it, but we educate them properly. And I think we can cover it. I'm interested to hear if there's any other questions, and how much would you suggest would be a maximum amount of question based on your experience?
I wouldn't suggest any more than 4 questions on.
I was thinking the same thing.
We have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Good morning, gentlemen. It's nice to hear you talking about so many important issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question related to the birthing facility. I've been in Cayman for a long time, and maybe somebody's been talking about this, but I haven't heard it mentioned. What's going to happen to all of the cruise ships that are not able to pull up and dock at this birthing facility? As you know, we always have 6, 7, 8, even 9 ships. How many are going to be able to pull up and dock? And what happens to those that are sitting out there? Will they still be tendered in?
I think that is the answer. Yes, that the whatever docking facilities that we have will not necessarily be able to accommodate all of the ships that are in port on a particular day. So other vessels will still have to be tendered.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay, I'll leave you.
No, caller, if you don't mind, there's obviously a reason why you asked that question, and sometimes we have to analyze the thinking. You obviously asked that question for a reason. Why you when you say that's very interesting? Why do you say that?
Well, because we're at risk of really doing some environmental damage, possibly to the island, while a majority of the boats are going to be sitting out there like they are now, tendering in. And I just think that's a big risk. I also know, like in Europe, a lot of places, tendering is still happening. And actually, cruise ship people love it. They love to be boated back to their boat. I've had friends come to Cayman, and they say that the trip back out and seeing the island from a tender is actually quite romantic and enchanting. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to have boats sitting out there tendering in, I'm just wondering what's the validity of creating this big pier and putting the island at such risk.
Can I put one more thing to you?
Sure.
The other element that rightfully the government has to consider from a long-term plan perspective is the cargo component, because we have to think about the growth of the economy. And one of the justifications is that you're going to have a cruise dock as well as a cargo dock. How do you feel about that part? Do you think that's enough justification for them to go forward with the dock?
No.
Okay. Why?
Well, so the dock will be used for the cargo imports as well. Is that correct?
Yes. That's the understanding.
It's a tough question. I mean, we've survived this long as we are doing what we're doing. Can the island support the amount of development that's coming, the amount of construction? Can we support that? I just am concerned that the island is going to lose the charm of what it has.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you so much, caller.
Thank you very much, caller, for that.
Have a good day.
Very good.
Just to say, I don't want those who are not particularly in support of the port on the basis of the environment to be upset about my line of questioning. But it's my job as a representative to look at all factors. And I'm not ultimately against the government's plan for the port, but they have to justify it to the people. So when you see that I may pose these flip questions as to for and against, it's because I think it's important that we analyze and have dialogue so we can filter our minds and come to the best conclusions. Now, the fact that the government has said it's also a cargo component is something I have to factor in, because I want to make sure that we continue to develop positively. But it's a weighing game. Which is more important? Can we sustain the growth of the economy for the next 10 to 20 years with the current docking facilities that we have and the structure of how we import things? And if we can't, who makes that analysis? And is it realistic, and how long for? These are the types of things that we have to consider, because if we could maintain the development and the growth and imports with the current facility that we have, then that justification for the cargo is outside the door. Now we focus on just the dangers of the docking, of the new dock by way of dredging and the loss to the environment. So I try to compartmentalize the discussion about this port to be justified in my conclusion or to justify in the analysis for you to consider as the people. So sorry about that. I just had to ask that question.
Sure. We're going to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, with MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan will continue after this short commercial break.
Rotaract Blue, in support of the Cayman Special Needs Community, present the 11th Annual Open Arms Gala, The Great Gatsby. Saturday, May 25th at Ristorante Papagayo. Cocktails begin at 6 p.m. 3-course dinner, award ceremony, silent auction at 7 p.m. Attire is Gatsby chic. Your ticket is only $100 per person. Your table only $1,500. Tickets available online at eventpro.ky or email president.rotaractblue@gmail.com. The Open Arms Program promotes care, understanding, and non-discrimination for disabled persons. The Great Gatsby by Rotaract Blue. Inspiration to the next generation.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Cause they on sale this month. Dull, teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who represents Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly. Several topics that he will be discussing this morning, including the port referendum, and we have heard calls come in. One particular caller, Mr. Moxham, pointing out that they now have the required number of signatures. It's just a matter of verification, and Mr. Bryan says he has a few more on a sheet that he's going to hand in to them as well. Mr. Bryan also wants to talk about proper funding to assist Caymanians in sharing in such a booming economy that we have. Also, the changes that are taking place within the Cayman Islands at this point in time, and the hurricane season, potential for flooding, not only during the hurricane season, but our rainy season as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So just want to move on. I think you had a threshold.
Yes, I'm just going through the Constitution, so if you could go ahead and talk.
We're going to come back to the referendum question shortly, and based on the suggestion of having more than one question on a people's initiated referendum or a government initiated referendum. But I want to move on to one of the other topics, which is proper funding for Caymanians to take advantage of the booming economy. One of the concerns that I've been analyzing is that things are reasonably doing good for the economy. I can't say that things are doing well for Caymanians directly. And there doesn't seem to be much studies to identify the difference between Caymanians taking advantage of the economy and non-Caymanians taking advantage of the economy. And the only way you see that is by the analysis of the business community. How many new businesses are being started by Caymanians as opposed to how many new businesses are being started by non-Caymanians? And some may argue and say, well, all businesses have to be Caymanian. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is anymore. And even if a Caymanian is involved, how much of the investment is actually theirs? I think that there's going to be a lot of small business opportunities that will be created. And we've heard the government say that they've given the Small Business Association $20,000 to give us funding for small entrepreneurs at a rate of $5,000 each. That's 4 Caymanians will get a benefit of $5,000. I think $5,000 is obviously not a small amount, but neither is it a large amount. With the cost of doing business in the Cayman Islands, it's not very much of a large startup. And there's a number of Caymanians out there who would like to start a new business or take the opportunity of the booming economy and the benefits, but have no collateral to start with. And if you want to encourage and strengthen and empower your Caymanians, you have to give them the start. This is where the Cayman Development Bank should be playing its role, and it's one of the visions of the Honourable Speaker of the House and former Premier McKeever Bush to give Caymanians that uplift that they need, because we know that most of Caymanians, the only value they truly had at the time was their land. And much of those land opportunities are within the seniors. So it's your grandmother, your grandfather who own the land. And if they don't give you the blessings to say you can use my land as collateral, you would never have any start. So a young man or young woman who's 25 years old sees the opportunity to say, boy, there's a lot of new restaurants are popping up, and because the population is growing, that means people are consuming more food. How does that young Caymanian start that without any collateral? A lot of persons who come to the Cayman Islands usually have outside sources that they can tap into to say, in other jurisdictions I can get a loan because I'm a Canadian or I'm an American or I'm an English person, or my family has wealth to start. So you need something to start and kick off. What Caymanians are not getting the opportunity to is that start. And the banks are not seeming to be very willing to give Caymanians that start. At least I don't see the numbers to reflect that. Matter of fact, the stories that I'm getting from my constituents are to the very opposite, that every time that they try to get a small business loan, they're put under such restrictions that they will never be able to meet the threshold. For example, a person said to me the other day that they were trying to go to a bank for $75,000 to start a small business. And the bank basically said, do you have $75,000 in the bank? And or $75,000 worth, or $150,000 worth, which is double the amount that they want, worth of land that you can put up for collateral. Mm-hmm. And the Cayman said, well, if I had $75,000 in the bank, I wouldn't be coming to you to borrow the money. And obviously the banks are going to secure themselves for the risk, and I expect no different. But this is where government has to take the risk if you genuinely want to empower Caymanians, because empowerment comes with value, comes with money. If you have Caymanians who are very, very smart, that's good for your economy as well. But if they're smart and don't have the opportunity to take use of that intellect, then they're not as strong in value either. We see that Trinidad had a major problem with that as well, where they were growing their education base tremendously. So they had loads of Trinidadians who had tertiary education qualifications but had no way to use it. They didn't even have the jobs available for them. So the policy of the administration over, I think it was 35 years ago, is educate, educate, educate. But they didn't think about the empowerment of those persons who are educated. So you have young Caymanians who have gotten the opportunity to go off to school, go off to university, come back, and they're empowered with this information. And they say, you know what, I've seen outside. I've seen how small businesses work. I have the qualification to start this business, but I have no money to start it. Now, we have a perfect opportunity because things are booming by way of the economy, by way of growth from our tourism perspective, our financial services perspective, and our development perspective. This is the perfect time to help Caymanians by empowering them with the opportunity, and that means a risk of money being lost. Yes, I know there is a risk, but that's the risk you have to take to empower your Caymanians. I recall that many persons lambasted this administration, or the former administration, the UDP, for giving loans out to Caymanians that were never paid back. That's the risk that you have. Not everybody did not pay back. If you have to put in restrictions in place and mechanisms to get that money back, then do so. But don't kill the whole idea simply because 10% of them didn't pay. And where is the collections department within the bank to go out there and receive that money? So I think we're throwing out the baby with the bathwash, and there's such a great opportunity to start empowering Caymanians to be the beneficiaries of this economy rather than everybody else. Because where there's a gap, there's a void, it's going to be filled. And sadly, I believe at this particular point, it's not being filled by enough Caymanians. It's being filled by everybody else who's taking advantage of this opportunity, and the government is paving the way for everybody else to take advantage of our own economy. If we don't empower our people, we're not going to empower our nation. I know we have to go to a break.
Okay, yeah, we've reached that top of the hour, 9 o'clock, headline news. We have about 2 minutes to go, so we can take that caller. Let's take the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, O.C.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you. Good morning to Kenneth.
Good morning.
A very good topic that you guys have got on there regarding about education.
Thank you.
And what you're saying there is correct, Brian. For instance, in Cayman, for someone to get a student loan, they got to still be in there if they're in school. Where if the family doesn't have all this collateral to put down, where are they going to get? How are they going to be able to qualify for a student loan? Even the government does not give you a student loan. For instance, they don't give no more maximum of $60,000 a year. It's all the government banks will give, not the government's insurance, which is CIDB, only gives $60,000 a year. Anything more that you have to have collateral. Now, a friend of mine, my son, Ronaldo Goff, actually went to CIDB to see if he can get a student loan, but he needed $120,000 to finish his degree. Now, if he don't finish his degree, where is he going to get the money to pay a student loan from? CIDB told us that they cannot lend no more than $60,000. They couldn't lend him no more than $60,000. He needed $120,000. No, a friend of mine.
Now, did he need he needed that all in one shot or over a period of time?
Over a period of time, but
okay.
they wouldn't grant $120,000 either.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't grant the $120,000. They only grant $60,000.
Yes. That's the maximum that they could allow.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But a friend of mine who's a Canadian, her daughter doing the same program as my son, and Canadian government left them their full amount, and they didn't even have to put down not $1. All they got to do is to come back and work for their country.
Yep.
So that's the difference between. I mean, where is he? I mean, if not all of us is as wealthy as most of the people that are getting the grants from government, because a lot of them, because they're already wealthy. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't even be get the grants. They should be left for people that cannot afford to.
So, caller, you would your argument would be then that maybe the remit of CIDB should be that in particular circumstances they should be allowed some flexibility to increase that amount based on the circumstance.
Yes, sir. That's correct. That's
okay.
correct.
Okay.
It should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller, for that.
If I can quickly just say, though, there's a difference between the funding for education and funding for business, but I think they're both priorities. And as she highlighted a key point, other jurisdictions are willing to invest in their people, because even if you have a debt, but that debt was in your people, it's worth the risk.
Yep. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. From Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Cruiseport Referendum Cayman Town Hall meeting is coming up on Thursday, May 30th. It's taking place from 6 to 8 p.m. at Georgetown Town Hall. The public is invited to join for the latest updates on the petition for a People's-initiated referendum on the proposed Cruiseport. UK Prime Minister Theresa May will make the case for her new Brexit plan in Parliament later amid signs that Conservative opposition to her leadership is hardening. The Prime Minister will outline changes to the withdrawal agreement, including a promise to give MPs a vote on holding another referendum. But Shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir Starmer said the offer was, quote, too weak. And 6 people have been killed and 200 injured during mass rallies in Jakarta against the re-election of Indonesian President Joko Widodo. Indonesian police have confirmed the death toll based on reports from hospitals. They said the cause of the deaths are being investigated. The national police chief said the public should not assume police are responsible. Social media has been restricted in some areas to stop rumors spreading. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan is in the studio with me this morning. Mr. Bryan.
Yes, OC. Thank you so much again, Mr. Connor. I keep on forgetting that. I just want to add one more thing to the last caller. In respect to what we do in our jurisdiction as opposed to other jurisdictions. Once you're within the 20 years of your 20s, government is quite easier to give you a scholarship as well, or potential funding for schooling. But after you've passed 30, people don't get a second chance. There's not scholarships going out to a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old. And in this new day and age, persons are having to retool and retrain themselves to be effective in the job market. Because you may have had a degree back then, and then you're in a business place, and they'll be like, well, boy, things have changed. If you don't upskill yourself, you're never going to be able to move up. And I say that from an example of a friend of mine now who actually moved to the UK because he was 43 years old. He could not get the opportunity to retrain or upgrade himself here locally because he didn't have the money to pay for it, and neither were there anybody who was willing to give him the opportunities to pay for it. But unlike the UK, where if you want to retrain or upskill yourselves, there's always funding available for persons to improve their education and improve their skill set. And it's not a policy that we take here because it doesn't seem, and I don't want to be negatively accusing this administration, but the evidence only reflects this, is that we're not focusing on empowering the individual, the human being, because we can't see it. We can't say, well, boy, that's a value we see. The true empowerment of any nation is within its people. So you have to take risk on your people, whether that means risking on their business ventures or on their educational ventures or within their own home properties, because they are your people. And I don't think this administration is willing to spend the money on the asset, which is the human being. We spend a lot of money on capital projects, which at the end of the day, if your economy goes down or drops to the ground and you have nice roads and nice buildings, it's irrelevant. Your value is within your people. And this is one of the big crossroads for myself and this administration, is the lack of investment within the people. For example, the administration will spend money every Christmas to pay people to go on the side of the road and pick up leaves or paint roads or cut bush. I think it's such a wasted amount of money. I'd rather say, listen, you leave that to Public Works, who already have employees there. Put those persons in a classroom where they can upskill themselves to newer things that is already in our economy, where jobs are available. So, for instance, a young man or young woman, or even a mid-age, I wouldn't say young anymore, say within your 30s and your 40s, and you were usually a computer guy, pick up a hammer, use a tape measure, go in the classroom for 2 weeks and learn the principles of a construction site, because that's where their booming economy is now. And still pay them the same amount of money they would have got paid for cutting the bush, but now they have something to go back to the community or to the economy and say, listen, the government has upskilled me or gave me the basic skill sets for this. At least I can get a job in this area. And we have to start mandating that Caymanians get jobs. If we are afraid to say, listen, you have to hire these Caymanians, then we'll always have these Caymanians unemployed, because the door right now is so open to every single body else across the world except protecting Caymanians. And I'm sorry, I know the business community may not like this, but we have to start protecting the Caymanian employee. We have to protect them, because the balance right now is in favor of the employer, not the employee. There's a lot of employees who's being taken advantage of or not getting the fair opportunity because the wage scale is in their favor.
Right. If I can be, we have a call on hold too, but if I can be the devil's advocate for a minute, and
yes,
the government would say, for instance, as far as achieving full employment and jobs for Caymanians, they would point out to say that preliminary results in the most recent labor force survey, fall 2018, indicates unemployment dropped to 2.9% from 3.4%. And with Caymanian unemployment down to 4.6% from 6.2% in the spring of 2017, continuing an overall downward trend. And it would point out that under the last two administrations, Caymanian unemployment has more than halved from the last two administrations. Caymanian underemployment has more than halved from its peak of 10.5% in 2012, and it's currently at lowest level in more than a decade. They would also point out that they are committed to achieving full Caymanian employment, so every Caymanian who is willing and able to work is able to find employment. And they would point out that at full employment, a stable, low rate of unemployment is inevitable to account for some level of frictional structure and voluntary unemployment, as well as those effectively unable to work. And they would also point out that workforce opportunities and residency Cayman work, WORC, manages work permits, residency and Caymanian status, and that an online job clearinghouse will soon be launched, if it hasn't already been launched, to give Caymanians full access to available opportunities, improvements in the work permit regime, and also progressing with input from key stakeholders as well. So that
Thank you.
The government's response to that.
Well, I'm glad that you can be here to respond for the government, but I want to respond to the government if you're going to be their advocate in the show.
No, I'm just pointing out what the government says in those areas.
And you just sold their story. Well, let me tell you what I feel. I think I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important that I address that right now.
Sure.
For one, the figures that we get are from a biased source. Obviously, the government is going to say that. Now, I'm not suggesting that the figures are wrong, but there's reason to be questionable about that. Secondly, do we know...
So you question the figures that the Economic and Statistics Office puts out?
I would.
Why?
Because I can feel it on the ground. I see the people. Now, if you're asking the key part that you just said just now, Caymanians who are willing and able to work. If you want me to flood this room with Caymanians who are willing and able to work, I can do so next Wednesday. I'd be happy to do that because there's lots of them out there.
But the government does concede that there's still a level of unemployment.
Well, there should never be any. There shouldn't be any. See, the fact that we have more jobs than there are Caymanians and the fact that there are Caymanians unemployed is ridiculous. There's no reason under God's green earth as why a Cayman shouldn't be employed with this booming economy.
Agreed.
So either one, they're not protecting them in the workforce to get the opportunities, or their figures are lying. Now, the other part is can we quantify exactly how many Caymanians with that 2.9% I think they've gone down to? 2.9%. What exactly is that amount? And how many of those Caymanians are not working? How many of those Caymanians have children that cannot provide for those children? How many of those Caymanians who are depending on the state? And what is the value of that dependency on the state through the needs assessment unit? And what's the millions of amounts of money that we, the taxpayers, have to pay because the government won't do that? These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And can they do more than that? We're talking, you also hear within that statement is improving the work permit system. I think the work permit system is working too well because everybody and their donkey can get a work permit. Everybody. So I don't want you working on that. What I want you working on is working on getting Caymanians jobs. There's no reason at all why there should be any Caymanian unemployed. So I don't buy into the fluff. What I buy into is seeing Caymanians come to me every single day. Matter of fact, those numbers, I believe, are fluffed up by the fact that Caymanians are so frustrated they don't even bother reporting that they're unemployed anymore. So, I mean, the fact that our numbers constantly, every Christmas, we pay people to cut the bush is an embarrassment to our almost $1 billion budget every 2 years now. It's an embarrassment and an indictment. And then as hard as our forefathers have worked to create this economy, what you're going to tell them is go cut bush and you're going to pay a little bit of money? Come on now. So I'm not going to buy into the fluff of those numbers. I feel it every single day where people come and they say, help me in my resume. And when they go to jobs, they get denied. So you're not protecting them. We're not supposed to have no percentage of unemployed Caymanians, and you're not protecting them. If you start doing some more protection, I can promise you those numbers will go to zero.
Okay, let's go to the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Speaking, good morning, Mr. Brian. Speaking of helping small businesses and getting loans from the government, over the last 4 or 5 years, government has given away hundreds of millions of dollars worth of concessions. So just imagine over the last 15, 20 years, that must be over $1 billion. And government continues to give away concessions, and now that we have all this construction going on, and it seems like it's more construction than we've ever seen in our life, and it's just the perfect time to start collecting concessions, especially giving away concessions to billionaires when our poor Caymanians need everything we can possibly get, such as a pension fund, and our young people who are coming up, that they can have a part of all this construction that is going on by pulling these concessions towards a trade school fund, and also collecting these concessions in order to put towards a small business fund. All these things that this money could be going towards, and governments and the present government and the present members of the Legislative Assembly inside that building, including you, Mr. Brian, I've never heard any of you bring it to the floor of the House and try to get this thing started in collecting these concessions for the Caymanian people. Because remember this, billionaires don't have to worry about no pension. I hear Miss Georgette calling the other morning, and this woman says she don't have no more pension coming in. And then the Premier is talking about he sees in the future a big problem with Caymanians concerning their pension because they're not going to have enough because of what they're putting in and what their employers are putting in. It's time for government to start putting in now for people instead of just the people and the employers. It's time for government now to start putting into people's pension and collecting these concessions. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. I think what people have to recognize with pensions is that some people are of the belief that a pension is a cure-all when it comes to retirement funds. It is intended to only be a part of it. Now, unfortunately, people in the past, and this is why one of the things that the United Nations, UNESCO, has always highlighted is that you try to look at the savings ratio in each country. How much savings are there on an individual basis? Because you need to couple your savings with your pensions, and hopefully that will help you. But a pension is not designed to be the free flow of money that is going to sustain you for your non-working years. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the Cayman Islands didn't have the opportunity.
Not only that, but pensions are also on the basis of some other factors that, like, say, for instance, your house would have been paid off, or you no longer have certain expenses. And there's many people who are coming to that pensionable age who are not meeting those thresholds that were expected, so therefore their pensions is not doing much.
Okay, we've got to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
The 18th Annual Talent Exposition of the Arts, Sunday, June 30th at the Hockwell Theatre, is brought to you by the New Self-Help Community Foundation. This event is proudly sponsored by Rubis Eastern Avenue, Savannah, Red Bay and Jose's, Rainbow Realty, Cayman National, Mitsubishi, Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands, Bodden Corporate Services, L&T Tires, Island Heritage, Reliable Industries, Markson's Furniture, Ministry of Health and Culture, and Muck Russ. Prepaid tickets for the 2019 Talent Exposition of the Arts at the Hockwell Theatre are available at Funky Tanks and Winter Circle Sports for $10 or $15 at the gate.
Hi, I'm Dawn McLean Brady, President of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, better known as CISPA. Small businesses drive Cayman's economy. As small business owners, we depend on government to create an environment where we, as entrepreneurs, can do what we do best, and that's to provide products and services that are valuable to our customers and, in turn, employ others. The cruise piers and cargo ports provide these opportunities. Encourage our government to build a port and let the Caymanian entrepreneurial spirit shine. Support the port, support our tourism.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, MLA who represents Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly. I think, Mr. Bryan, you want to respond to that last call, and I'll just give you another one to respond to at the same time. And this one says, please, can you ask MLA Mr. Bryan what his feelings are on the onslaught of sargassum that has been bombarding our shores and indeed most Caribbean islands currently. It says scientists are saying it's connected to global warming and it's a dilemma that's here for the long term. What about our tourism industry? What about our own use of our beaches? It's going to be costly to address. Where will the funds come from? What proactive idea he has to address this pressing issue?
Thank you, OC, for the question. Before matter of fact, better if I answer that one than answer the caller after a while. It's relevant in my mind. The person who texted in suggested that there's a potential chance for it to be connected to global warming. I am one of those representatives who are concerned about global warming, but unfortunately we have no evidence that it has to do with that. I actually was speaking with one of my senior seamen the other day who remembers about 50 years ago when they had an onslaught of seagrass as well. So you can see this could be potentially a pattern that happens every couple of decades. Is that the case, or is it connected to global warming? And obviously, if there is evidence connecting to global warming, there is a lot of things that we have to do as a Earth to address that. But in respect to trying to fix the problem and where the funds would come from, I would suggest that there is the environmental fund that is specific for these types of things because it's environmentally related. I would take this opportunity to employ a much needed employment amongst a lot of young school leavers to get into the entrepreneuric opportunities that are available with this seaweed. Basically, that's what I call it. And for the cleaning up process. Just like how you do the Christmas cleanup, a perfect opportunity to do something similar here, and we can use the funds from that location that is available at this particular time.
But so, what about those people who are claiming the beach as theirs, the beach that is now being contested between the landowners and the people who have the right to use the public beach, and those owners who want to claim the high water mark as opposed to the low water mark? What about their responsibility in cleaning up their particular beaches? Now, remember now, not all of those beaches are publicly owned. Yeah. So what about the responsibility that they have for maintaining their properties?
Very good point. Very good question. I think obviously many people are looking at it from a holistic standpoint, but there is an obligation on those persons for their own financial benefit. Like, say, for instance, if there's a condo owner, obviously it'd bring down the value of your condo if you have just a bunch of seagrass out front. So they would probably address it. But I am aware that many of those business owners, in respect to the beach-related businesses, actually do have their own private initiatives to try to clean it up. But it's just constantly coming back and again. But the government has to still assist them because it's twofold effective. It's affecting the bigger tourism product as well as that business owner. So I see no problem with assisting them with that, but they have their own legal obligations. I think that potentially maybe if it's not a public area, give them a preferred rate for cleanup because we're also helping ourselves by helping them. So that's what I would do and hire a large amount of people to get it done. I've heard some suspicions, and I've yet to confirm it, but I got a text just yesterday concerning about certain areas being cleaned up and others not being cleaned up. And specifically because of high-end net worth individuals or the location, and I refuse to call the locations until
I believe I can call it.
If you choose
I believe South Sound area was cleaned up on the weekend.
I'm not going to say that that's not what I heard. But it seems as if specific areas are being cleaned as a matter of priority rather than others, and it has to do with the value of the landowner.
Of course,
whether you're a millionaire.
There's a launching ramp there in South Sound as well that is used by the public. So,
yes. So we all benefit, but I don't want to get too much into that, but I've heard that. Let's go back to the last caller. The last caller suggested that we should be taking the opportunity now with how things are doing well to get back some of those concessions that we've lost or not give out any more concessions. And I agree with the caller. But unfortunately, the caller made an accusation as to say that none of the members, including myself, of the Legislative Assembly has even brought the topic up about these concessions. And I'm sorry that he may not have been informed as to what I have been doing, and I need to do a better job of making sure that he knows what I do as a representative for everybody in the Cayman Islands. So I do apologize. I'll try to get up more often and fight for this argument more. But I would like to inform him I am the one member since this new administration that have put that question to the Minister of Finance, which is the Honorable Roy McTaggart, and asked him what has been the concessions over the last 10 years, and can he give us the numbers to see how much money we're losing to concessions. Up to this date, that minister has not answered that question. So I have been doing my job in respect of keeping a close eye on all of these concessions. And I'd be happy to send him the question. If he wants to see it, the caller, my email address is kennethbryan2@hotmail.com, and I'll be able to send you that question when it was submitted. I think it was actually submitted close to over a year now. It was in the first year of this administration, but the minister hasn't answered it. I am focused on that, and I will stay focused on it. I agree that we should be reserved on any more concessions going forward, because most of the benefit of concessions were on the basis of hoping to trigger development. There's enough of that going on. So I don't think the government should be giving out any more concessions anytime in the near future.
I think we have to be careful how we say that, because now there are concessions that are being offered to those people who want to participate in the Go East initiative, and to Caymanians and stuff like that. So,
we're not talking about.
Well, we have to specify when we say no more concessions.
Very good, very good.
Thank you. Qualify that.
You probably saved me from getting a few licks myself. I agree with you. The Caymanian concession, the small man concession, I support, but the larger investor concessions, I think we can limit that at this point. Obviously, we can examine the benefit, but I don't think there will be good justification by any administration at this particular point, particularly because we have a surplus, and particularly because we have enough initiation and spark within the economy to justify it. So, not saying that there isn't a case for it, but they would be hard pressed to prove the justification for that.
Okay, if we may, Mr. Bryan, I'd like to go back to the referendum question, and we were talking about various thresholds and everything, and for the benefit of our listening and viewing audience, I want to point out sections 69 and section 70 in relation to the power to provide for a referendum. And section 69 reads, a law enacted by the legislature may make provisions to hold a referendum amongst persons registered as electors in accordance with section 90 on a matter or matters of national importance, when so resolved by the majority of the elected members of the Assembly. But the question of whether the Cayman Islands should seek any amendment to this Constitution that may result in their independence shall be deemed to be a matter of national importance. So they have pointed out that any move towards an amendment to the Constitution that may result in the independence for the Cayman Islands, that is a matter of national importance. That must go to a referendum. Section 70 speaks of people-initiated referendum, and it reads, without prejudice to Section 69, a law enacted by the legislature shall make provisions to hold a referendum amongst persons registered as electors in accordance with Section 90 on a matter or matters of national importance that do not contravene any part of the Bill of Rights or any other part of this Constitution. So the operative words for our discussion there, Mr. Bryan, would be matter or matters of national importance. So it can be more than one, hence the question in terms of the referendum question and the ballot paper can be more than one. And it goes on to say, before a referendum under this section may be held, there shall be presented to the Cabinet a petition signed by no less than 25% of the persons registered as electors in accordance with Section 90. The Cabinet shall settle the wording of a referendum question or questions within a reasonable time period as prescribed by law, and the Cabinet shall make a determination on the date of the the referendum shall be held in a matter prescribed by law. And it goes on to read, subject to this Constitution, a referendum under this section which is people-initiated referendum,
shall be binding
on the government and the legislature if assented to by more than 50% of persons registered as electors in accordance with this section. Now, what Section 70 talks about is a people-initiated referendum, and that is where the section refers to matter or matters. So my interpretation of that, not being a constitutional lawyer or even a constitutional expert, would mean that all of those matters on people-initiated referendum, all of those matters would have to be a people-initiated referendum. But I don't believe that precludes, that it prevents you from having a referendum that is people-initiated, question that is people-initiated, and questions that are brought by the government because they're seeking an advice from the public by them indicating how they vote in a referendum as to whether or not they would agree with something. It doesn't have to be binding.
Exactly.
The only thing that would be binding would be the people's initiated referendum.
Yeah. And that's why I asked you whether or not we would probably have to go into a second booth, quite like when we did in the election.
I don't think so.
Because I think there's a possibility that they will come up and say, well, you technically can't do that. That's why they're not going to put other questions.
I think the important thing is here that you want to make it as easy for the voting public as possible. You don't want it to make it complicated. You want to make it as transparent and as easy as possible for people to come out there. So rather than putting hurdles and roadblocks in their way to say, okay, well, you vote on this matter here and you go over there to vote on the other matter to make things more strenuous for people, you do it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Time for us to take a commercial break. Still have a few topics that you want to discuss, Mr. Bryan, so we're going to try to get to those as well. But folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about. Because they on sale this month. Dial teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road. Rotaract Blue, in support of the Cayman Special Needs Community, present the 11th Annual Open Arms Gala, The Great Gatsby. Saturday, May 25th at Ristorante Papagayo. Cocktails begin at 6 p.m. 3-course dinner, award ceremony, silent auction at 7 p.m. Attire is Gatsby chic. Your ticket is only $100 per person. Your table only $1,500. Tickets available online at eventpro.ky or email president.rotaractblue@gmail.com. The Open Arms Program promotes care, understanding, and non-discrimination for disabled persons. The Great Gatsby by Rotaract Blue. Inspiration to the next generation.
Keeping cool in Cayman is essential, but can be costly. Making small adjustments to your household can lead to big savings and help protect the environment. Keep your blinds, curtains, doors, and windows closed when it's hot outside. Using a fan instead of AC will use less power and can cost a mere third of air conditioning. And when using a fan, rotate it anti-clockwise, which will blow the cool air downward, saving even more energy and money. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning, and Infrastructure Facebook page for more tips on alternatives to AC and be an energy advocate.
Hello, I'm Joseph Woods, the Acting Port Director. Our port facility is the hub of the Cayman Islands commerce and economic activity, handling $658 million in imported goods annually. From groceries to construction materials, all sectors of our economy depend on the port. But it is now 40 years old. Its infrastructure is degrading, and we feel the strain from insufficient space for both cargo and cruise operations. The time is now. A new expanded port facility is needed to allow both cargo and cruise to operate efficiently and to support our island's continued growth and development. Support the port, support our tourism, support Cayman's continued growth and development.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Orrett Connor continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Before I throw the mic back over to Mr. Bryan, I just want to clarify something. Someone has called in off air to clarify the situation as it relates to the clearing of sargassum over the weekend or probably on Sunday. And they point out that the Recreation and Parks Unit, as well as the Department of Environmental Health, were involved in that cleanup. The DOE, Department of Environment, was not involved in it. I think I may have mentioned Department of Environment as well. So it was Recreation and Parks as well as Department of Environmental Health. So just a point of clarity there.
All right.
Mr. Bryan.
I know the Department of Environment is specific to the mix-up. I think they should change that name because it's always being mixed up. They're constantly having to clarify. I would like to take the opportunity to put some information out there in respect to the passing of Mr. James Wood, better known as Mr. Jim Wood. The funeral will be at the Savannah United Church on Saturday, May the 25th, which is this coming Saturday. And also there will be a bus service available because it's in Savannah and so many people know of Mr. Jim Wood from the central area that the family has provided a bus to be available in front of his well-known bar there on Martin Drive. The bus will be parked there from 1 p.m., but it leaves at 2 p.m. to go to the Savannah United Church. Because of the travel distance, we know that a lot of his friends and community individuals may not have vehicles to drive, but a bus will be provided. So if you intend to go to his funeral, a bus will be parked in front of the bar there on Martin Drive from 1 p.m., but leaves at 2 p.m., and the church service itself starts at 3 p.m. Also, it's asked that in lieu of flowers, donations to the Seafarers Association, Cayman Islands Cancer Association, or Meals on Wheels. The intermission will be at the Peace Bay Family Cemetery, where he will be buried. So, on behalf of the family, just to provide that information. The other point that I got as somebody else highlighted was in respect to the question of unemployment and those figures that we were discussing being so low. One thing that I haven't seen factored in, and a friend of mine messaged it into me saying, we don't know how much of that unemployment number has dropped due to migration. There's so many Caymanians who are leaving the Cayman Islands for the fact that they can't find work or opportunities are not here for them. But yet still, it blows my mind, to be honest with you, Mr. Connor, where we have Caymanians leaving to go somewhere else to get an opportunity, but we have other people coming to Cayman for an opportunity. That there's something wrong with that formula, and that is a fact, what I just said. There are Caymanians leaving to get benefit, and there are people who are coming here to get benefit. So there's only one thing that can come to the conclusion is the way things are structured here, it's the environment isn't positive for Caymanians, why they would feel they have to leave, and the environment is good for those who are coming here on work permit. That's the only reason. You don't come to a place that you can't survive on, and you don't leave if the things are good. And I know, based on just humans that I know myself, the numbers have increased. Matter of fact, I've asked that question, can the government give a figure of persons who've left the jurisdiction? And I recognize that after a while it was hard to answer that question because we don't really track our people. We have no statistical data to say, okay, this Caymanian has been out of the jurisdiction for X amount of time. Can we surmise that that person has moved away? I mean, and there's no studies of that. The government cannot say today that there is 1,000 Caymanians who've left over the last 3 years because they don't collect the data. And so if we don't collect this type of information, we cannot be proactive on with facts and information to see the trends. And this is again what I told the government in the last administration about the foreclosure numbers and about the TLEPs and signing that agreement and what it would have done to the housing market. And as I predicted, when I told them, listen, Caymanians are going to lose their homes, they don't pay attention to data and analysis and make proper predictions because they don't collect the information. So ultimately, I agree with that texter that sent the text. I appreciate you sending me in. It is something that we haven't factored in. It's how many Caymanians are leaving in respect to lack of opportunity and why these figures that they're claiming is the number, 3% unemployment amongst Caymanians. We don't know how much of that has been a result of persons just leaving because they have no opportunities here. But we do know one thing in respect to data is that we can see the work permit numbers going up. We have no data to show how many Caymanians are leaving, but we surely have loads of numbers and data to show how many people are coming. So I think that we need to start thinking about some of these things. OC, I'm going to leave in 10 minutes. I have a 10 o'clock meeting. And it's going to take me at least 5 minutes to drive there. So
we have a caller. Let's grab that last caller for you then. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, sir.
In regards to your question and query about why Caymanians are leaving Cayman and going to other places and other people are coming here, it's simply because that one of the reasons is the Cayman people are having to live under this cost of living here, and they're not earning enough. When they go in other countries, they live under the cost of in that country. But that country, those countries that they're going to, has certain things in place that we don't have. The other people that are coming here are actually becoming millionaires in their countries overnight. Okay? If you take the exchange of the dollars and the currencies and the way that they live and what they can buy for it, it is actually, that's where the government got to start investigating to bring a balance to this whole thing. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. Caller, we have one more. Can you come? One more, Mr. Brian?
Yes.
Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Bud. How are you?
I want to weigh in on the comments that MLA Kenneth Bryan just made with regards to Caymanians and the whole question of whether they are benefiting.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a letter to the editor of the Compass based on 2 articles I saw in last week's paper, and as I expected, the letter wasn't published. Basically, I asked the question, for whom are we developing? And I said that if we are measuring our progress on a faulty report card, if we insist on boasting that work permits are an all-time high, and I see we are now, after Jamaicans and Filipinos, Indians form the 3rd largest migrant population. Well, I'm not against migrants and migration. And to understand what is happening in Cayman, one has to go to the phenomenon of globalization. The problem for Caymanians, however, is much more complex in that we didn't educate and train our people in the numbers we should have when we had opportunity. And there are those who say that we still aren't preparing them. I don't know, Mr. Moderator and MLA Kenneth Bryan, if you know that the greatest number of work permit holders are not white collar, but rather blue collar.
That's correct.
Technical and vocational areas, HVAC, air conditioning, electrical, and all that. And we're still not doing anything to address and redress that shortage. I said in the article, I approached the issue from an intellectual perspective, and I can't feel good boasting that we have one of the highest work permit ratios anywhere in the world when our people suffer mortgage foreclosures, discrimination, and disenfranchisement. And I referred to a book I read in written by the Black American author James Baldwin, entitled "The Fire Next Time." And there was a passage in the book where one famous at the time American was addressing an audience in which James Baldwin was a participant, and he said, "The most dangerous persons in the world are those who have nothing to lose."
Mm-hmm.
I say that to say that the way the Cayman Islands are developing, the Caymanian people, the peoples of former generations whose ancestors built this jurisdiction, are the people who have nothing to lose. And one of these days, the chickens are going to
come home to roost.
That's right.
Okay, I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. I just want to say to you, sir, if they don't publish your letter, please send it to me. If I'm unable to read it in its entirety, I would certainly paraphrase it, but I would love to have it to.
It wasn't such a long letter, because I try to be. I recognize that brevity is often the soul of wit.
Yes.
It wasn't a long letter, but it was that I was taking issue with what they are promoting.
Mm-hmm.
What they are promoting, as I see it, are really not the interests of Caymanians. Indeed, oftentimes what I read in the Compass is a put down of anything Caymanian.
Yep. Mr. Borden, before you go, I know that you've obviously taken a life of retirement, so to speak, or semi-retirement.
Let me correct you. Someone like me never retires.
Never retires.
That's true. That's true.
Vocation.
Well, okay.
Change vocation and change emphasis on interest.
Well, since you have a little bit more time freed up, at least I'm assuming that's the case, maybe you should consider training young minds for proper leadership like myself, because I could definitely use your kind of wisdom. This job is not an easy one. I never thought it was, but every skill set that I can get to empower my mind to be the best representative would be invited, and I would love it. So if you ever have opportunity, just picking your mind and asking for your direction would be great for me, okay? Okay.
Well, I'm always humbled, and I'm not presumptuous, but I've always seen myself as an exemplar and a mentor. So I would be humbled to share my thoughts and to help other people try to understand and navigate the situation in which we find ourselves in the 21st century.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. We have to go to commercial break. I don't know if you want to very quickly do your closing remarks or come back. Yeah. Okay, folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Rotaract Blue, in support of the Cayman Special Needs Community, present the 11th Annual Open Arms Gala, The Great Gatsby. Saturday, May 25th at Ristorante Papagayo. Cocktails begin at 6 p.m. 3-course dinner, award ceremony, silent auction at 7 p.m. Attire is Gatsby chic. Your ticket is only $100 per person. Your table only $1,500. Tickets available online at eventpro.ky or email president.rotaractblue@gmail.com. The Open Arms Program promotes care, understanding, and non-discrimination for disabled persons. The Great Gatsby by Rotaract Blue. Inspiration to the next generation.
Business owners, managers, and marketers interested in learning how digital and social media marketing can help grow your business? Join Yellow Media Group Monday, May 27th at Yellow Digicon and unleash your company's digital potential. Learn from international digital marketing and social media experts, including speakers from Google and Matchcraft, plus a Fortune 500 digital marketing strategist. Complimentary registration for Yellow Media Group customers. Register now at digiconcayman.com or findyellow.com. Presented by Yellow Media Group in partnership with Google.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We've closed off the phone lines now. Mr. Brian has to leave us a little bit early, but it's not going to be not much early.
OC, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to have such a great dialogue. The more I come to the show with you, the more I look forward to the next show, because we really get into the heart of things and get some good analysis and feedback from the public. I want to say again my condolences to all those family members who've lost a loved one. I know it's a difficult time, but we have to trust in the Lord in these times and be there for each other. So again, until next 2 weeks Wednesday, thank you for allowing me to be on your show. And we'll talk about those topics that we didn't get a chance to talk about where Cayman is going to be in 30 years, following 2 weeks Wednesday. And I appreciate the time. All right?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. One of our listeners wrote in and said, there's a lot of focus on jobless, which is commendable. However, what about the Caymanians who are actually working but yet are suffering due to being victimized at work and having to put up with unfair treatment? Nothing is being done regarding this. I sometimes wonder if we're better off being jobless, as it's disheartening to work paycheck to paycheck just to cover the bills, but yet dealing with the above issues and bullying, which is usually displayed by expats. No offense intended, but I'm just speaking from experience.
That's a common feedback I get. I must agree with that person who sent that in. God bless you guys. I have to go.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Brian. The few minutes that I have left, we're going to go to the Tradewinds newspaper of the 26th of May, 1966. What was our relationship with Cuba like in those times? And one of the headlines in the Tradewinds newspaper of that date, administrator sends protest to Castro. And it reads, His Honor, the Administrator J.A. Cumber announced on Saturday, May 21st, 1966, that he had issued a protest to Fidel Castro through the Secretary of State in Jamaica concerning the violation of Cayman airspace last week by 3 Cuban MiGs. The presence of the MiGs has not yet been officially verified, but observers at Owen Roberts Airfield and members of the government described the jets as Cuban MiGs. It is a violation of Cayman airspace for such flights to enter within the 3-mile limit of these shores, according to international laws. According to Mr. Cumber, this is not the first instance of such a violation. It has been necessary in the past to protest to Premier Castro. On at least one occasion, an apology was forthcoming. It is theorized by the government that such flights are in fact not mistakes, but rather surveillance flights of Cuban refugees landing here by ship. They always seem to occur when a new shipload of refugees arrive here, usually at Cayman Brac. Government sources said that 28 refugees left last week and 3 more arrived just prior to the jet flyover. The results of this government protest will be announced in due course, said Mr. Cumber. And 1966, those were the days when refugees were refugees. and political refugees in many instances, because they were running from the political dictates of the Cuban Revolution at that point in time, those who didn't agree with it and wanted to leave. Quite different from the economic refugees that we have today and that we still have to deal with as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Ebanks at 12:15 for Talk Today. Join me and the members of the opposition on Friday, and maybe by Friday we will know who the next leader of the opposition is as well. So don't forget to join us on Friday also. I say to you, have a great day, and as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.